We're going to make a loaf of Irish soda bread. Now bread is different from cakes and cookies because they have a different quantity of sugar and fat. Bread has no sugar in it, or very little if any, and it has very, very little fat. And that's why bread is such a good product to have in our diet all the time. Bread is often called the staff of life. It's our basic food. Bread is leavened with yeast, and yeast takes a long time to make your product rise. So a quick bread is leavened with baking soda, baking powder, and that is why they're called quick loaves. Before I start to mix, always go to your oven, get your oven racks positioned, and turn on the oven. First, I want the oven racks down in the center position or a little bit lower. I'll turn it on, preheat it to 425. The next thing to do to have ready is get your cookie sheet or your baking sheet ready. We call these cookie sheets, but they're really known as a baking sheet. We don't grease it, but it just puts a tiny little bit of flour on your pan to have it ready. This particular recipe makes 2 loaves. Set that aside. We need 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour and level off. Level measure always, and use dry measures for dry things and liquid measures for liquid things. 1.5 cups. Baking soda is the leavener here, and we need 1 1/2 teaspoons. Level measure, you can use the top of the box. One tablespoon of salt. Level measure. Do you notice that I put salt into a container? And you'll notice too that these containers are all plastic bottles. I've got a lot of things tucked into them. It's a great thing because you can buy these things in the bulk food store. 2 tablespoons of white sugar. So you see how little quantity of sugar there is. And 2.5 cups of whole wheat flour. And then the half cup measure. Get everything all mixed up. We need 2 cups or 2.5 cups, we'll see later exactly how much when we put it in. Here's the fun. We're going to put the buttermilk in all at once. Buttermilk is used because it's an acid. And if you remember a minute ago, we were using baking soda. And whenever you use baking soda in your products, you have to have some kind of an acid. Buttermilk, sour milk are usually what's used. So dump it all in. Probably it will take it all. And the recipe mentions that you have another 1/2 cup in reserve. Now stir. I can see a little bit of loose flour down there, so I'll put a little bit more milk in it. So that looks about right. Don't forget that you can use your fingers, but remember your hands have all been washed. You can use your counters as long as you keep them clean, And don't let children sit on them and throw other kinds of things all on your counter, because your counter in your kitchen is your bake board. Your flour on your hands. In fact, I'm going to put a little bit out here. And I don't want any more flour put on this dough than necessary. So I'll just do this. I need to knead it, and this is really a little bit like bread making, but we just want to knead it just enough to get it into a smooth ball. Now we're going to make this into 2 loaves and see how quick this is. Cut it in 2. Form it into a ball. Put one of them here, keeping the cut side underneath. Oops, I got one a little bigger than the other. My idea of a half didn't work out exactly, did it? Now take a knife, just a table knife. See if you can get some flour on it if you like. And here's where we make some cuts. Using the dull side of the knife, cut right down through that, but do not cut through to the bottom. You're not cutting it into squares, you're just putting a cross on the top. You know, you should get your sons baking, because boys and men love making bread. They love to get their hands into flour mixtures, and they're not intimidated whatsoever about hands and flour and things happening there. They love it. 425 is what my oven takes it at. Set the timer for, let's set it for 20 minutes and we'll look at it. It should probably take 25 to 30 minutes. Our soda bread. Oh, very good. That's about right. Now that has taken 25 minutes and it isn't brown too much, which is quite good. Yeah, it's hollow, just like bread. We should loosen it while it's hot. So we'll just move it on to some racks. But if I had looked in and found that it was browning too fast but didn't have it hot, I would have put a piece of foil like this over top of it to just stop it from browning until it was completely cooked. So that's a little trick for you to know in any kind of bake.